So blood pressure is the lateral pressure exerted by the blood on the vessel walls while flowing through it. What are the determinants of blood pressure? The determinants are cardiac output and heart rate. So the regulation of blood pressure is the regulating both cardiac output and heart rate. So the regulations are, so in short-term regulation, it is neuronal by the baroreceptor and chemoreceptors, and the long-term regulation by the renal body fluid mechanism, then renin-angiotensin system and aldosterone mechanism. So these are the main mechanism which regulate the blood pressure. Now moving to the baroreceptor and chemoreceptor, if the pressure is increased, then the stimulation of baroreceptor occur, which are carotid sinus and aortic arch, and then there is stimulation of nucleus tractus solitarius, which inhibit the vasomotor center, and then inhibition of sympathetic nervous system, which decrease the tone of blood vessel, and therefore the vasodilation process occur. So the receptors carotid sinus transmit via the glossopharyngeal nerve to solitarius nucleus of medulla, and this receptor, that is the carotid sinus, it responds to the decrease of the blood pressure as well as in the increase of blood pressure. Whereas the aortic arch, which is another receptor, transmit via the vagus nerve of the medulla, and it only responds to the increase in the blood pressure. Now moving to the mechanism. So if the BP in our body increases, then it stimulates the baroreceptors, which stimulate the nucleus tractus solitarius, and in this way there is inhibition of vasomotor center, VMC, that is the vasomotor center, and it causes the suppression of the sympathetic nervous system, the decreased activity of this, and as well as the tone of the blood vessel also decreases, which causes the vasodilation. So due to the vasodilation, there is a bit maximum blood is flowed through the vessels. Now in the same time there is stimulation of CIC, nucleus ambiguous of vagus nerves, which is the sympathetic under the parasympathetic nervous system, and there is increase in the vagal tone, and which decrease the heart rate, which is called bradycardia. So we can see that the stimulation of baroreceptors, it stimulates the nucleus tractus solitarius, and the two-way functions we can found via the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic vagus nerve. So in this way, by the vasodilation and the decreased heart rate, the blood pressure restores. So these are by the baroreceptors under the short-term regulation of blood pressure. Now moving to the mechanism via the chemoreceptors. So what happened here, if the BP is lower, that is if it is below 60 mmHg, then what happens? There is hypoxia or reduced blood flow, and which stimulate the chemoreceptors, and via the respiratory center they will do the work. And here the same thing happen, but here is stimulation of the vasomotor center, and that's why the sympathetic nervous system activity increases, which causes the vasoconstriction, basically in the peripheral blood vessels, and due to this the blood flow decreases to the unessential areas of the peripheral areas, and it protects the vital tissues like the brain and heart. So due to the decrease in the blood flow in the peripheral areas and the brain and heart, the vital organs are actually saved. So this occurs if the BP is lower. Another thing we see, whereas it also stimulates the nucleus ambiguous, and the vagal tone is decreased, which is opposite the activity of the baroreceptors, and the heart rate increases. So this is the way how there is much amount of blood is pumped through the heart, and the BP try to restored. So these are the two mechanisms through the baroreceptors and the chemoreceptor under the short-term regulation of blood pressure. In the next video, I will discuss the long-term regulation of blood pressure regarding the renal fluid mechanism, renin-angiotensin mechanism, and aldosterone mechanism. So hope you people can understand. If you have any query and question, you can ask or can comment in the comment box.